Welcome, and thank you for joining us today for the Middle School Acceleration, the Next in the From Foundations to Future series. This webinar is supported by the Connecticut Noyce Math Teacher Leaders Program. My name is Quastina Jackson, and I am a Noyce Fellow and a middle school math teacher in Middletown, Connecticut. In today's session, From Foundations to Futures, a PD series on readiness, access, and alignment, we will be talking about middle school acceleration and important considerations related to acceleration options. We begin with the central question that drives this conversation. How, why, and for whom do we accelerate mathematics? Acceleration in math often prioritizes speed over depth, leaving many students without a strong foundation in essential middle school content. As we reflect on acceleration practices, it is essential that we rethink our approaches to ensure they align with today's educational goals and the diverse needs of our students. This presentation addresses this critical issue in mathematics education. Here are some highlights of the history of middle school math acceleration, specifically the movement to offer Algebra 1 to students by 8th grade. The blue boxes represent major policy changes, initiatives, and standards, like the launch of the Algebra Project in 1982, the Common Core State Standards in 2010, and other state and federal efforts that shaped how and when students access algebra. The yellow boxes show the actual percentage of 8th graders enrolled in Algebra 1 at key points in time, starting at 16% in 1986 and rising to 32% by 2019. Together, the timeline shows how policy and advocacy have impacted acceleration. This requires us to pause and ask, what does acceleration look like in practice today? And how do we balance rigor with equity? Modern day classrooms face new challenges and opportunities. This image illustrates a key shift in mathematics instruction over the past decade and reminds us that effective acceleration should not simply move students through content more quickly, but instead help them build stronger connections and deeper understanding. Before 2010, algebraic concepts were introduced in a limited way prior to high school. The majority of algebraic thinking, such as solving equations, graphing, and working with functions, was reserved for high school coursework. Middle school focused primarily on arithmetic with a slower progression toward algebra. Since 2010, there has been a significant restructuring. Algebraic thinking now begins as early as grade 6 with concepts such as signed numbers, proportional reasoning, and solving equations introduced earlier and built upon in grades 7 and 8. This shift supports a more gradual and connected transition from arithmetic to algebra. This change requires thoughtful planning and curriculum design, placement decisions, and support systems to ensure coherence and universal access to rigorous content. Let's take a look at the Connecticut context. We've seen a steady increase in math enrollment up until 2018, 2019, followed by a noticeable decline. To understand this pattern, it helps to remember what was happening during this time. In 2010, Connecticut adopted the Common Core state standards, which placed much more algebra content into middle school. A few years later, in 2014-2015, we introduced the Smarter Balanced Assessment, which gave us new statewide measures of readiness. And then in 2020, of course, the pandemic disrupted learning in ways that are still felt today, which is why now, more than ever, we need to reflect on how our current systems may or may not be serving students well. When we examine enrollment by race and ethnicity, we begin to see patterns that suggest uneven access to advanced math opportunities. This slide shows the racial and ethnic makeup of Connecticut's middle school students. Yet, when we look at the composition of many accelerated classes, they don't always mirror the overall population in our schools. This raises questions about opportunities and whether all students are being supported to pursue higher level math. Looking at enrollment by free and reduced lunch status, we again see disparities. Students from lower income backgrounds are often underrepresented in advanced math courses. These gaps signal the need for intentional practices that provide greater access and opportunity. When we think about opportunity, it's not just about whether an advanced course is listed in the catalog, it's about how students are prepared to succeed in it. Overall, opportunities for advanced math enrollment show differences across groups, particularly those that do and do not take Algebra 1 in the middle school. With this difference, we risk closing doors too early for students who are still developing their readiness. At the same time, we also need to be cautious about accelerating students before they are ready. When students are rushed into advanced math without the right foundation, they often end up retaking courses, which can undermine both their confidence and their interest in the subject. Opportunity has to strike a balance, making advanced math accessible while ensuring that students have the preparation they need to thrive once they get there. Often, advanced courses in mathematics are considered courses that lead to calculus. However, this is not accurate. There are many different advanced math courses beyond just calculus, including those found in the area of probability and statistics. In some cases, these courses may be more relevant to a student's future aspirations, so districts need to ensure there are multiple accelerated pathways for students. If we want to ensure all students can succeed, we need to design systems that invite more students into these pathways and support them once they are there. At the heart of this issue is decision making. Who gets to take advanced math? How are those decisions made? Too often, structural or implicit biases influence these pathways, limiting opportunities for students who could thrive with the right supports. Districts place students into Algebra 1 and Grade 8 using a variety of methods. Processes of how students are placed into Algebra 1 are not consistent across districts in the state. What has been found is that non alliance districts tend to be more public with how they place students. These districts have expectations clearly posted on their district's website. In general, alliance districts do not. The information is either hidden on their website or just not there. Most districts use a variety of placement criteria. Some of these include assessments, teacher input, and previous grades. Once the decision is made to place a student in Algebra 1 in the middle school, they should be monitored for progress and success. Research shows that the creation of a tool that assesses competency of standards is needed. All students, accelerated or not, need exposure to all content standards so that they are prepared not only for Algebra 1, but for any math course they choose to pursue in the future. In addition, research shows that universal acceleration policies do not lead to achievement gains without supports for students. Ultimately, it comes down to balancing the ideas of data collection and student readiness for successful Algebra 1 acceleration. Through the involvement with the Launch Years initiatives, many states have already been exploring and piloting different models. If your district is exploring the idea of holding off on offering high school courses in middle school, it is important to consider how to keep students motivated and engaged when they are advancing at a faster pace than others. One possibility is to offer exploration instead of pure acceleration. For example, a separate plus or extended course or projects offered within the classroom can provide rich opportunities to see how math connects across disciplines. These approaches deepen understanding and give students flexibility while still preparing them for advanced courses in high school, including calculus before graduation. Other states that are keeping their accelerated programs have been examining the fairness and potential biases in their selection processes. To address this issue, some districts have implemented opt out or auto enrollment policies. These remove teacher bias by ensuring students are automatically enrolled unless they or their families choose otherwise. Some states are even mandating such policies through legislation. Importantly, these decisions should be revisited each year to ensure they meet the needs of all students. A third option is compression. In this model, all middle school math content is covered without skipping topics. Students may participate in an additional boost class or be placed in a faster paced course. Either way, the goal is to ensure that every concept is addressed thoroughly while still allowing acceleration. These examples are only a sample and are certainly not an exhaustive list of potential middle school programming. They are intended to spark investigation and inquiry into the current offerings in your district. Potential shifts and changes should be examined to ensure that all middle school standards are included. Selection procedures should be audited for universal access. In addition, middle school changes should be made in conjunction with high school pathway decisions to ensure that all students have the ability to take advanced math classes, whether or not they accelerate in middle school. We must carefully weigh the benefits and challenges. Effective acceleration requires not just speed, but thoughtful sequencing, ongoing support, and attention to students' mathematical identities. By revisiting Algebra 1 policies, schools aim to ensure that all students have universal access to rigorous coursework, either by offering it more widely or ensuring fair placement criteria. Schools should focus on conceptual understanding and readiness over acceleration. This will help prevent students from falling behind in later courses. Mastering Algebra 1 is critical for advanced STEM coursework and college readiness. Schools want to make sure students take it when they're truly ready to succeed and continue with higher level math. When acceleration is implemented effectively, It helps students thrive, not just academically, but also in how they see themselves as math learners. Success here requires collaboration among educators, families, and systems. So, where do we go from here? A few guiding questions can help us. How are students currently identified for accelerated pathways, and what biases may be influencing those decisions? Do our selection criteria reflect our values, or do they unintentionally restrict access? What assumptions underlie our acceleration processes, and how can we make them more fair and accessible to all students? How might changes to placement systems and later entry points expand opportunities for more students? Today's webinar emphasized the need to rethink acceleration decisions, ensure equitable access, and keep middle school standards central. As you leave, consider one step you can take, whether reviewing placement practices, starting a conversation, or re examining pathways to make advanced math more accessible for all students. For those who want to dig deeper, we encourage you to explore the Middle School Acceleration Fast Facts and the Professional Development Playlist. These resources include articles, podcasts, videos, and reflection questions that support both classroom educators and leaders. Thank you for engaging in this important conversation about middle school acceleration. By rethinking how, why, and for whom we accelerate, we can create pathways that open doors for more students and help them develop strong math identities. Thank you for joining us for this installment of From Foundations to Futures, a PD series on readiness, access, and alignment. We look forward to you joining us at the next and final in the series, where you will have an opportunity to learn about attending to K through 8 grade level standards.